Hello everybody and welcome to Whiz, your family-friendly podcast where we discuss D&D Onslaught, Dice Masters, Heroclix, and the other entertaining games made by WizKids. I'm WizDad. I'm that one Super Bowl commercial that came on just a few too many times. I'm not really that funny. I started to become a bit annoying. But unfortunately, you're going to remember me for the next few years. I will be your guide for navigating the competitive and casual scenes of the WizKids Triforce of gaming. It's Mashup Monday. It's going to be a Heroclix-centric episode since I missed the last Heroclix Friday. We are going to discuss some of the previews that we've seen of the next Heroclix set, Marvel Studios' next phase. And I'll be going over the core of the 4 Silver Age teams I'm considering for next weekend's Rock Regional in Chattanooga, Tennessee. But first, let's get to the WizKids Progress Report.
Kowalski, progress report.
So to start things off with the Progress Report, first, as always, let's talk a little bit about the solicits. So right now, there's not really much change since last time we talked on Wednesday. Everything in February has a release date except for the D&D Classics Collection Monsters K through N. March still doesn't have really anything outside of Cell Swords 2 and Colossal Kong coming out on the 6th. Everything else still kind of has a March month. It'll be out in March, which, there's a lot of HeroClix there, a lot of next phase. There's, I think, 2 Iconics currently scheduled. There's the Colossal Kong, obviously, and then there's the Iconics Peacemaker on the Wings of Eagly that is also supposed to come out in March. I don't believe the other one is supposed to come out until April, so I think we're good there. But we still don't have an official release date for next phase. But with how many previews we've seen thus far, because practically the whole set, at least the commons through rares, we know of all of them. We've seen the dials for all of them. We are still missing quite a few super rares and a few chases, obviously. When you get kind of to that threshold of previews, to me, that means things are getting close, right? Like, it's getting close to being released, at least pre-release. If they're doing a pre-release, it wouldn't surprise me if there was a pre-release at the end of February. So, let's see. They usually do pre-releases starting on Wednesday, so the 28th of February. Would not surprise me if that's when pre-releases start, with the set dropping on the 6th or probably the 13th. If it drops on the 13th, that does put some questions of legality for Adepticon. That doesn't really give it its full week, right? Like, Adepticon is if I remember correctly, it's the 20th through the 24th, so it would hit right at the week after the set would potentially release. So I'm willing to believe that next phase probably isn't going to be legal for Adepticon, at least at this point. But we have seen a lot of the set. I wanted to go over some of the interesting pieces. I will talk about every piece and do a full set review once we know everything. Absolutely, I like doing the set reviews. It's a nice time to kind of go through and talk about it. But the one thing that I want to talk about now is if we do start getting pre-releases, before I do that, I want to highlight some pieces that I think have potential and maybe you should start building with initially before it even drops. Because a lot of this is on HC units. Clay Wood, who runs the site, is very good about getting these pieces on there. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these. Now, honestly, I don't think there's really much in the way of commons that make a huge impact. They're commons, right? They're okay. Nothing really right home. We do have some of these like expendable goons, tracksuit mafia, which they're interesting. They work just like the other expendable goons. They are a sidestep, super senses, and empower for 15 points, which is okay. I think we already get an empower, but something to put in your wheelhouse because that does work with the ones from Notorious. Let's talk a minute about one piece. Let's talk about trick arrows. Now, trick arrows, I believe, are listed as a common. 015 is the trick arrows. So, trick arrows work. Let's see how to explain it. They're indestructible. Their equipment, qualifying keywords is marksman. Now, like the other equipment, obviously, if you have the qualifying name, which is marksman, you can do it for free. Otherwise, I believe it's 10 points. If I'm looking at this right. Yeah, 10 points. So a force may only contain one trick arrow equipment. Once per game when this is equipped, place up to 3 trick arrow cards face down. You can look at them. And when this character hits, you may flip over a face down trick arrow card and perform its on reveal effect. There are, I believe, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 different trick arrow cards. You kind of have like a trick arrow deck. And at the beginning of the game, I believe that's how it reads. Yeah, once per game when this is equipped. So at the beginning of the game, is effectively when you're equipping it, you put down the 3 cards that you want out of the 7. The 7 are Putty. This one is on reveal, generate up to 4 squares of hindering terrain marker in or adjacent to a hit target. At the beginning of your next turn, remove these hindering terrain markers. Opposing characters occupying or adjacent to these hindering terrain markers must roll for breakaway and cannot automatically break away. So that's solid. Sonic, not the Hedgehog, though that would be a neat tie-in. On reveal, choose a hit character and all opposing characters adjacent to them. Give those characters an action token. That's solid. Acid, choose a hit character. This turn, if that character would reduce damage, they reduce damage by 1 less. Okay. Electrical, choose a hit character. Instead of normal damage, deal 2 penetrating damage to the chosen character and up to 1 other opposing character within 2 squares of the chosen character. Now that's solid. 2 penetrating damage to 1, and then you just choose another character within 2. That's good because that can help you get through, like super senses, shape change, all of that, because you're just dealing 2 extra damage to the other person. USB. This one's probably one of the more popular ones. On reveal, instead of normal damage, destroy an equipment equipped to each hit character. So if you've got triple targets, you hit 3 people, you use USB, you take out all their equipment. That's big. There's a ton of equipment out there. Too dangerous is another one. On reveal, choose a hit character. Instead of normal damage, deal 3 damage to the chosen character and all characters adjacent to them. Knock each damaged character 1 square. So this is your kind of explosion, too dangerous, obviously. It's not penetrating, but it does hit everybody, and then they get knocked back and take knockback damage, potentially. So that's big. Speaking of big, the last one is the big trick arrow. On reveal, choose a square adjacent to a hit target. After resolutions, this character may use Quake as free as if they occupied the chosen square. And after resolutions, generate a blocking terrain marker in that square. So that one's interesting too. You're doing Quake as free as if you occupied the square. On reveal, choose a square adjacent to a hit target. So you hit the target and you deal damage. And then after resolutions, this character you use Quake as free as if you occupied the chosen square. And then after resolutions of that, generate a blocking terrain marker in that square. It's neat that it's a power that has after resolutions in it twice. Like, to me, that's neat that they have all of that in there. So the interesting thing about trick arrows is the fact that there's now a mystery element. I've talked to quite a few people in the Heroclix community, and that's one of the things that it's kind of a little bit apprehensive. When you look at a build sheet, you know everything that's on their list. Well, when you go in with trick arrows, you know that potentially, and this is how I view it, any of the 7 are up for potential, right? Your opponent can bring any of those 7 into any game. So you have to assume that they always have the one you want to not face, right? They have the worst one for you at all times. And you don't know which one. They could bring 3 of them, and all 3 could be bad for you. So Trick Arrow absolutely is going to see play because those arrows are good. USB is great. Too Dangerous is good. Big is pretty good. Even some of the other ones like Electrical, I think, dealing 2 penetrating could be very clutch. So Trick Arrow, absolutely get yourself a set of those. Luckily, it is a common, kind of like the Health Cycle and the Motorcycle. So it should be reasonably easy to get. Talking about some uncommons that I would want to point out, this is a very interesting set. Is kind of one I want to say off the bat. There's some really interesting characters, and there's not a lot of high points characters, and some of these are just kind of ho hum. But that doesn't mean they're bad. I think First off, I think Mr. Immortal is hilarious. If you haven't looked at his powers, faking deaths to avoid breakups. He's 35 points, number 029. When Mr. Immortal would be KO'd, except by this trait, roll a d6. If you roll a 1, KO Mr. Immortal. 2 through 3, turn Mr. Immortal to click 1 and place him up to 4 squares away from his current square, and opponent scores 10 points. 4 through 6, turn him to click 1, place him up to 4 squares away from his current square. So you got a 50% chance of your opponent scoring nothing. And that's just it. It doesn't stack up. It isn't like he keeps getting like mortality tokens. It's just simply when he would be KO'd, you roll a d6. If it's not a 1, he survives. If it's a 2 through 3, your opponent scores 10 points. What I love about it is he has a trait that literally says, free KO Mr. Immortal. You just KO him. It's called I'm Not Dealing With This, which if you've seen She-Hulk, it's hilarious. It's so like perfect to the character. He only has Plasticity and Perplex. He's 16, no defensive powers. Probably not playable, but I just wanted to bring that up because I thought he was hilarious. Looking at some of these other characters, once again, I will go into more detail about the ones that I think are great. I will bring up Moon Knight at 200 points. I think he's playable. He's definitely the one you want to pull in sealed because he's 200 points and he's very difficult to take out. He does have like a colossal retail of himself. Free, choose an opposing character that damaged a friendly character since your last turn. Place Moon Knight such that he can make a close attack targeting the chosen character, then do so. That's great. He has 3 stop clicks. He's 12 for 4 at top dial. Like, it's solid. Super, super solid. But, you could probably get through his dial. I don't know how competitive he is. He might be okay in Pulp. Remember, I'm going to go through Pulp and I'm going to go through Modern once we do the review. I'm not sure about the pizza objects. I'm going to have to do some more digging into that because there is mechanics with the pizza objects that is neat. I don't know how great it is, but I want to make sure I'm not missing something. So I will table that. Getting into the super rares, we know Elsa Bloodstone I think is interesting. We've got a prime Elsa Bloodstone. Charge, running shot as a trait. When Elsa Bloodstone hits, after resolutions, you may unequip a hit character and equip any equipment unequipped this way to Elsa Bloodstone. So she's kind of got that, the orange battery guy, I forget his name. That kind of trait where he runs around and just starts stockpiling all of these, all of their equipment. He was the only one I think that currently could do it in the game. Collector used to do something like that, right? Like where he can kind of stack up on all of that. Larfleeze is the name. I'm sure everyone was screaming it at me. So she could do that. She can equip any number of equipment when equipped this way, and then she has free. Choose an unequipped equipment equipped to Elsa Bloodstone. An adjacent friendly character may immediately equip that equipment. So cool. It doesn't say adjacent standard, so any colossal, she can still do it that way if she has it equipped. She also has an special attack power, precision strike, free, make an attack, but only to target an equipped opposing character. Sweet. And then a special defense power until last click. Super Senses. Elsa Bloodstone takes a maximum of 1 damage from equipped characters protected Outwit. Then she's got Outwit and Stealth. No, well, she has Charge and Running Shot. I think she's actually really good. I think with all the equipment is out there, all the Scott Porters that are throwing rings everywhere, she's really solid. She also has Marksman, so she herself can get trick arrows for free. And that's kind of neat, right? Like, we don't have, Marksman is a new keyword, so we don't have a ton of that out there. Though I guess the one Scott Porter could just equip it because he has all keywords, right? So looking at some of these other pieces, Wong is going to be one everyone is talking about. Super rare Wong is unique if Wong is adjacent to exactly one opposing character, and this is a trait, and neither is adjacent to any other character. Other characters can't be moved or placed adjacent to either of them and can't target either of them. He's got phasing, special movement power, phasing teleport, plasticity. When Wong uses phasing teleport, after resolutions, he can use flurry as free. And he's got a 7 movement. And he has a stop click, super senses toughness. When this click is first revealed, immediately place Wong up to 3 squares away from his current square. And then a special damage power for the first 5 clicks, exploit, probability control, giant reach 2. He's pretty nutty for just 75 points. Power Cosmic and Mystics. He is definitely going to be a beast, which is really funny because it's Wong, right? Like, that's just humorous. And that's kind of most of what I'm going to talk about now. We did see another avatar, Taurette. So we like Khonshu, which we've talked about before. Taurette gives your avatar support and outwit for effectively free if they have Herald. So this one's a pretty big one. It's pretty good. And we also saw there's Jack and Elsa. We know there's Steve from the musical, which the musical one, I'm interested to see how good they are. We also have Kate and Lucky is another chase, which that one I think is one of the not as good ones, but maybe I'm wrong. And then we have the Ultra Chase, which we know is Kevin, K.E.V.I.N. So basically the big robot at the end of She-Hulk. Spoilers. And he's interesting. I won't go into too much detail of him because I don't know how good he is. But for 40 points, I think he does interesting enough things. I don't know if it is... if it's going to be, what's the word, meta potential. I don't know if he has that, but maybe. But I've been talking a lot about previews. I just want to touch on a few of ones that I think are interesting. We're going to keep getting more. And once again, I'm going to go in depth on almost every single piece when I do the set review. So I don't want to talk too much about that. Instead, let's hop into the fishing segment as I go over the 4 Silver Age teams that I've been working on over the weekend.
Get your gear, little man. We're going fishing. And I mean now.
So I believe I mentioned it before, but I'm going to the Rock Regional in Chattanooga, Tennessee next Sunday. I'm still undecided on what I want to play. It's Silver Age, so it's not that I'm not taking it seriously. It's just I've been kind of focused, thinking about the Adepticon tournament that I haven't had the capabilities of devoting that much energy to Silver Age. But I knew with it being next weekend, I needed to devote time. So I spent this weekend focusing on it and then realizing I don't own as many pieces as I thought I did. But I did ultimately build 4 teams that I am bouncing between. They're all different kind of archetypes, and I thought I would go over the different cores with you of the teams. Not like everything about it, because I'm still undecided on some of the specifics, like equipment and whatnot. But effectively, I have built 4 teams that I think would be solid, fun teams to play in Silver, and I'm hoping would do pretty well in the tournament. Some initial thoughts before we get into the team specifically. What I found myself dealing with when building for Silver. 1, I think the limitation of 200 points for Modern is strong. I think it was absolutely necessary because I butted against that wall so many times. So many times that I hit 200, 190 points, 200 points, and I kept sitting there thinking, "Oh man, did I cut it a little too close." I will also say 400 points. I'm warming up to the idea of 400 points. I don't know if I still like it though. I do think it might be too many. It might enable certain things that shouldn't necessarily be enabled, but I am going to be cautiously optimistic. How about that? And so let's kick into the first team. I would be remiss if I didn't start building Avengers. If you know anything about myself and what I've played over the past few years, I'm a big Avengers fan. I'm a big Avengers swap fan. I like the Empire Captain America that allows you to swap figures. That's just something I like. And I built around that, and then they kind of prematurely retired, and I was sad, but hey, we're back in Silver Age, and what do you know? It's back on the table. And there's an added benefit of the fact that swap mechanics allow you to get around the modern limitations, because the limitations is based off of your starting force. So first off, the Captain Americas themselves are Silver Age. Most of the pieces you swap in can be swap out can be Silver Age, and you could bring in modern pieces. Now, the biggest detriment to Avengers currently is obviously on the ban list are the two biggest pieces for Avengers. Sarkarian Iron Man and Scarlet Witch were the key cogs for an Avenger team. And they're gone. So you might be thinking, WizDad, why on earth are you building with them? Well, there's still a lot of good pieces to go around. So the way I went about building this was I thought, what do I want my final team to be? Steve Rogers, the one from Captain America and the Avengers. It's the Steve that's like punching the air with a shield. He's the one that allows you to bring a piece and give them the Avengers or shield keyword if they're 50 points or less. He is a key cog because he allows me to bring in, ideally would have been Carnage Silver Surfer, but he's banned. But he does allow me to bring in the MOE engine, the Masters of Evil. He allows me to bring King Killmonger to the Avengers. And I can have the other MOE on the sideline for his mechanics, and they don't have to have it Avengers, right? So that's fine. Just the one that starts the Force does if I want an Avenger theme, which I do for the Scott Porters. So the concept behind the team is built around Prime Spider-Man, who does have Avengers. It's built around Falcon. It's built around, and this is kind of my initial one, two Scott Porters. Basically, think of this: King Killmonger, Miss Marvel, the super rare from AV60, the one that if someone adjacent moves when she's tiny, she can get placed next to them, and then she could just do things, one of which is equip a ring and pop out a construct, which is nice. The two Scott Porters, Prime Spider-Man, Falcon, Pegasus Captain America, and two Gun Kids. I've talked about Two Gun Kids before. I think they are absolutely ridiculous, incredibly strong, and guess what? They get better when you give one of them a power gem and maybe the other one a lightning ring. I'm still undecided on that part. I did go back and forth and debate, do I want Chase Black Widow? Chase Black Widow, I think, might be overcosted at this point. I think she's still good, but at 100 points, it's a little harder. But I found myself doing the math and the mental gymnastics on getting it to work, and I think I got it to a place. I do a spreadsheet, by the way, a big old spreadsheet. I got it to a point where I believe I could swap things out and also get me a free Waldo arms. There is the Spider-Man Absolute Carnage set that has a superior Spider-Man that has Avengers, and he comes with the Waldo arms for free. So you could swap into him and then swap him out, and he'll drop his Waldo arms for free. So you could equip that to Prime Spider-Man is what I'm thinking. But effectively, the final team, once again, Miss Marvel, super rare, Falcon, King Killmonger, 2 Scott Porters, 2 gun kids, Prime Spider-Man, Pegasus Captain America. And the thought is, Falcon brings a bunch of people over. King Killmonger, turn 1, you can swap for Kid Thanos. You can actually start with Kid Thanos. That's the other concept. Start with Kid Thanos, use him to taxi to bring over the Scott Porters and 2 gun kids, and then swap over to King Killmonger to provide a little bit more defensive capabilities. But effectively, it's a lot of damage, right? Prime Spider-Man hits like a truck. Miss Marvel, she does a lot with the construct. And she hits also, right? Because she has the keyword. She could drop the construct and hit. She has Empower also. I usually give her the blue ring to kind of give that extra bonus. 2 gun kid we know is great, or I've mentioned it's great. And even the Scott Porters have capabilities, right? They bump up the attack of the 2 gun kid to where we're talking 12 for 4, 12 for 5 from one of the 2 gun kids. And he attacks twice from like across the map. I think it's great. Like, I think it's a really, really good team. It's probably the one I'm leaning towards most, potentially. I just need a few pieces that I don't have. I don't have a Prime Spider-Man. Big bummer. I still need to hunt down the legacy cards for 2 gun kid. I do have the figures, but I still need a legacy card. And I don't have Kid Thanos. I have the others, but I don't have Kid Thanos. He's one of the ones I don't have. So that's the Avenger core. I think it's solid. It's kind of built off of my Nationals team, which I didn't obviously make cut at Nationals, but I felt like the team itself had a lot of potential. It was just my own ineptitude and my own lack of practice that led to it not succeeding. So that takes us to our second team. The second team is going back to another thing I used to love, and that is the Foot Elite. The Foot Elite Boomerang, specifically from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 4 set, the Unplugged. They're the figures that, if you've never played them, 25 points. When adjacent friendly character is KO'd or takes 3 damage but isn't KO'd, give Foot Elite an opportunity token. Free action, remove an opportunity token to either make an attack or move up to 2 squares. So, the concept is, beginning of first turn, you can pop out a construct, because that is technically a friendly character. You can move enough away from the construct to pop it, and bada bing, bada boom, all your Foot Elite now have opportunity tokens. They can make free attacks. So, the team is built around the soldier theme. It's super wonky. I built this with PJ Bowling, and he built a lot of it, and I kind of helped supplement it. And it's kind of weird. It's super weird, but it works. Because it works with having, like, Captain America is Samantha Cap, if you remember her from ADW. She's the one that could be carried, and when she's being carried, the carrying character speed is +3, which is nutty. And then if she has no action tokens, she'd be given a non-free action after being carried. So she can punch, she could do other things. We have Taskmaster, which I know you're thinking why. I'll get to that in a second. But Taskmaster 007 from Black Widow. Then we have Deathstroke from Batman, 50 points. He's necessary because he actually allows Flash from Wonder Woman 80. We all know that Flash. And Green Lantern Batman, he gives them the soldier keyword. So now we're all soldier themed, which is necessary because we are playing black shirt, Scott Porter. He's necessary because he gives us community tokens. We're playing both Scott Porters, I should say. The white shirt one is very important because he gives us +1 attack, which you definitely want for these Foot Elites because they only have a 10 attack, but they all have enhancement. So the team currently is Sam Cap, Black Widow, 007, Taskmaster at 50 points, Deathstroke at 50 points, The Flash, 3 Foot Elites, both Scott Porters, Green Lantern, Black Batman, Skinny Steve Rogers, and the Pim Pocket Tank. Don't forget the Pim Pocket Tank, guys. That thing is still really crazy. So the reason why Taskmaster is on the team is because of the Ultimate Nullifier. If you remember the Ultimate Nullifier, it's this really cool concept equipment. It's kind of gimmicky. Where it says power. Choose an opposing character within 6 squares in line of fire, then choose a number from 1 to 6 to be X. Roll a d6. If the result is higher than X, deal X damage to the chosen character. If the result is lower than X, deal X character to this X damage to this character. If the result is equal to X, deal X damage to both characters. And so where that boils down to is Taskmaster specifically has when another character within line of fire rolls a single d6, so willpower, leadership, you may place a die on this card with that result, replacing any die already there. When Taskmaster would roll a single d6, you may instead remove the d6 from his card and use that result. So I'm seeing now, when I built this, I built it a little off. Effectively, the concept is that Taskmaster either has the Ultimate Nullifier, and my thought was you can have Falcon bring him up, because Falcon, the one that kind of, carries him or moves by him through a square and then drops and they get placed, he could technically take the power action and then be able to do the 5 or the 6, and then right, you could choose 5 and know you're going to replace that number with a 5 or a 6 and just deal 5 or 6 damage straight through. It might be too gimmicky, right? I don't have it with Falcon currently, so I'm kind of like, that's what I meant by I have the basis of the team. I'm not entirely sure how I want it to work. But I do think Foot Elite are pretty good. I know there's a lot of defensive shells out there, but I love the concept of here's all of here's the flashes. It's really a one and done, right? Like the game is probably over after turn 2, after turn 3, because either you demolish their team or you're about to get demolished, right? So there is a version of it where you don't play Taskmaster, you just play like a King Killmonger or one of the other soldiers, so you have a little bit more stability, a little bit more defensive powers to survive. But I do think Foot Elites is one of those that I think could be good. I just don't know if it's really quite there yet. I have some more tinkering I need to do with it. Moving on to Team 3. Team 3 is a ruler team. It is unbelievably simple. Legacy Ultron, Ultron Pym, King Killmonger, because who does not love that Masters of Evil engine, and then I put Starro on there. The concept of this is that you have effectively 4 characters that are pretty hard to kill. Not super easy to dig through them. Legacy Ultron, very difficult to kill. The problem is that he doesn't get a lot of powers without his old buddy, Ultron Pym. Well, hey, guess what? You can play Ultron Pym and Sealed, because Ultron Pym can make those Ultron's drones for free, and things can really go to town at that point. King Killmonger fits for a ruler. That gives you some extra stability, gives you a TK, some other pieces that you want to fit on there. And then Starro is really the piece I'm weighing my options for. I knew I wanted to go ruler. You could opt to go like Scott Porter's or a Scott Porter. You can't go both unless you chose ruler, which I don't think you go black shirt. But if you went white shirt Scott Porter, you could. And you could play Mephisto instead, right? To give you kind of more oomph to that MOE engine. And then there's other pieces that could really fit in there. Jennifer Kale is a decent piece. Even Daredevil, the Legacy Daredevil that shouldn't be played how he plays, is a solid piece to play in this version. You could go Camo. That's another one I strongly considered. Right now I have Starro because I own Starro, and that's kind of the easiest piece for me to play. I think Starro's still really good. He's not easy to take out. And I think all the mind control he's doing is still really good. Like, I think it's good. So it's really built around Legacy Ultron, him being nutty, and now he has an extra 100 points to play. Like, you could switch in Mad Jim if you wanted to be able to move around equipment to give more options. So, like, you could play like instead of Starro, do a like Annihilation Mad Jim Jaspers version where you're throwing out those demons and swap out swords. You could do like a Merlin. Ruler is a very good keyword. So if you wanted to go for something that's harder to take out, kind of like you're scoring a decent amount of points, but you're not going to give up that many points, I think you could do fine with Legacy Ultron. You could even do the Doom chases, which I considered. I don't know if they're really worth it at 75 points, but it is a thing. You could technically play Spider Pharaoh to take everyone around, and that opens up the potential of Marvellas and a few other more defensive pieces if you wanted. But Legacy Ultron is probably the second team after Avengers I'm considering, mostly because I have a lot of those pieces, and I think it's pretty good. The last piece we'll talk about for today is the Goblin King team. It is very much a work in progress. Right now, I have Goblin King at 275. I have Blackheart at 50 points. This is the new Blackheart from Wheels of Vengeance. He has Monster. It's a ruler theme team, funny enough. But Goblin King does have monsters, so Blackheart can just move up and Goblin King would go adjacent. So he's like your super TK type piece. And, he provides some empower. He's a little easy to KO, so I wish I had more time to test it. But then you have the Scott Porters. You can probably, if you wanted to, get rid of the Blackheart and play 2 Scott Porters and like a Jennifer Kale to kind of help add some stability. But I really need to work on the Goblin King team a little bit more, because it might ultimately just be the team I choose, right? You have 125 points to build some good stuff to go with Goblin King, like things that are difficult to KO. And you could go non-theme if you really, really wanted to, and play like, in this Silver Age, haha, Joker still exists, right? Like, he is a thing. Now, he doesn't have any keywords that Goblin King has. That's the downside. But he does exist. Goblin King has Dark Avengers, Monsters, and Ruler. So Monster and Ruler are the ones you're going with. If I was just scanning through Monster real quick and thinking of pieces that you could potentially play him with, you could potentially go... he doesn't have Mystical, so Chthon would not work. Forget I said that. Scratch that from the record. Daredevil, I mentioned before, could technically go on there. Camo is just enough points, but you probably don't want to use all your points on Camo. Doomsday, MOE engine works, which that's arguably probably the better choice, is to go Mephisto and King Killmonger. And so that ends up being 80 points. That takes you to 255. You could throw in some equipments, throw on a Scott Porter. That's probably the best version, right? Like, I'm going to go ahead and just take out the ones I had in there. And let me just go ahead and add in Black Skull at 50, Mephisto at 30. That gives you 255. If you add the other Scott Porter, White Shirt Scott Porter, who has all keywords. So that way you have the capabilities of putting up some barrier due to the constructs. So, like, add that one, sure. That puts me at 280. That gives me enough equipment, I think. As far as equipment goes, I've talked to some people like Cosmic Cube. I think I'm probably leaning towards 2 rings, like Remaker Ring and either like Nightbringer or Daimonic to give you Precision Strike, just to kind of limit what powers you have to choose. Like, I don't want to have to choose Shape Change every time, so go ahead and give them Shape Change. I think that's perfectly fine. I don't want to have to... You could give them just the I don't think you really want to give him the Hell Cycle or any of that, because you could just pick those powers. So I think you just go ahead and give him a little bit of defensive powers. Give him Shape Change with Remaker. Give him one other one, whichever one you want. Probably Daimonic. You could give him the Energy Explodey one. Nightbringer gives him Stealth. So if you want to go fully defensive, you could go Nightbringer and Remaker, and that gives him a lot of defensive powers. And then that leaves you 10 more points, so that gives you something to put. Scott Porter already has the ring for free. You don't really want to put anything on Black Skull, so that gives Mephisto to put on Emotional Modifier to give some protection from mind control. You could give him another ring if you want. There's a lot of options at 10 points for Mephisto, and that's probably where I would lean, right? Like, I think, honestly, if I own Mephisto, which I don't, I might lean this version of the team anyway. Like, this might bump up to second place over Ultron, because I think it's pretty nutty. Like, Mephisto allows that engine and allows Goblin King to keep living, right? Because you just, every time you swap your Masters of Evil person, he's just going to heal a click. Once per turn, when another character leaves the sideline, after resolutions, you may heal one click on a friendly character or remove an action token. And you could do both if it's an MOE. So yeah, man. Yeah, I think the base team is just Goblin King, Black Skull, Mephisto, Scott Porter. And you just have one of the rings. Goblin King, you give 2 Mandarin rings, is my opinion the best option. Because you can't equip multiple gems unless you're Thanos. So I think, yeah, I think you can just go. Let me look at the rings, make sure I'm not Remake. Yeah, Remaker, Influence, no. Spin Ring, you really don't, you don't need that because you have Scott. Well, this Scott Porter doesn't have TK. So maybe you give Mephisto the Spin Ring. That's probably what you do. You give Mephisto the Spin Ring to be able to TK, even though you could switch into Iron Inquisitor. And then you give Nightbringer. I'm sorry, I was saying Daimonic. Spectral is the one with Precision Strike. Daimonic is the one that is improved targeting, hindering, which is also really important for Goblin King. Lightning is okay. Goblin King only has 1 target. Zero Ring, no thank you. So you could... Yeah, maybe you do that. Is it 1? No, it says during force construction, characters may be assigned 2 equipment if both are Mandarin rings. Yeah, so here's what I'm thinking, everybody. Team building as I'm recording this. Goblin King, you give the Remaker because you want to go ahead and give him Shape Change. And then you decide whether you care more about Precision Strike or you want to give him Nightbringer to give him Stealth and Smoke Cloud. I probably am leaning more towards Nightbringer and Remaker just to give him those extra powers. And then Mephisto, you also equipped with 2, and you give him Spin Ring and Zero Ring. And then that way, he's able to TK Goblin King out, or he could be your barrier if you need to, in conjunction with Scott Porter to provide a barrier shield. So I actually... Man, this is kind of a bummer because now I kind of like this team and I might try to play this over because I have Goblin King. I would just need a Mephisto and probably a Black Skull. I don't think I own Black Skull. So I would need both of those pieces, but I have everything else that I could possibly need. And I've got some thinking to do. I think 275 Goblin King is fun. To be honest, with this team, I think he could be super solid. And it's a ruler themed team. That's silly. That's really, really silly. So yeah, those are my 4 teams. By far, it's not all the pieces of Silver. But I will say, having built around Silver this weekend, I do think the format's going to be pretty fun, guys. Definitely way more open than Modern. Because Modern is kind of limited by the limited amount of pieces that we have currently legal. So with that, that's going to do it for this episode of Whiz. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. You're having a great Monday. We'll be back on Wednesday to do part 2 of my interview with Brian Davis. I will do another, Whiz Kids progress report to talk about stuff. But I will see you on Wednesday, and you guys have a great beginning of the week. See you.